if you check the international departure boards in London, Paris, and Berlin right now, what you're seeing looks less like routine travel and more like the opening scene of a political thriller. Flights to New York are canceled. Flights to Miami are grounded. Flights to Los Angeles are showing blank screens. In real time, the largest sporting spectacle on earth is beginning to unravel. And it's unraveling because one decision made in Washington effectively put the entire world on pause. If you're just catching up, the 2026 FIFA World Cup is facing a full-scale crisis. Donald Trump has signed an immediate and sweeping travel ban targeting multiple European countries along with several African and South American nations set to participate. There was no advance notice, no meaningful coordination with allies, and it happened less than 4 months before the opening match of the biggest tournament in modern history. He believed he was projecting power. He believed he was defending American borders. Instead, he triggered a geopolitical shockwave that is pushing Europe straight toward the leadership of Canada's Prime Minister. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through how this single move jeopardized a projected $15 billion economic surge for the United States. I'll show you who panicked first, why some of the world's largest corporate sponsors are pressuring the White House behind closed doors, and how this could affect your finances even if you've never watched a minute of soccer. I'm also going to explain how Mark Carney didn't rant, didn't posture, didn't escalate. He picked up the phone and quietly orchestrated what may become the most humiliating diplomatic setback of Trump's presidency. What you're witnessing is a pivotal moment, the United States pulling back from the global stage while Canada steps forward. Let's break down what actually happened. Early this morning, the White House released an executive order halting the issuance of tourist and temporary work visas for 22 countries. The list includes major European economic powers. It includes nations whose national teams have already secured qualification for the 2026 tournament. And it includes the countries supplying the bulk of fans, sponsors, and international media coverage. The United States was meant to serve as the primary host. 11 American cities, 78 matches, the final set for New Jersey. It was designed to be a golden showcase for the American economy, aligning with the 250th anniversary of the nation's founding. Instead, the doors were effectively shut. The justification cited broad security concerns and claims that foreign governments were not contributing enough to global defense costs. The World Cup was treated not as a celebration, but as leverage. Millions of visitors planning to spend money in American hotels, restaurants, and businesses were suddenly bargaining chips. The assumptions seemed clear. FIFA would bend. Europe would plead for exemptions. But that calculation was disastrously wrong. Across diplomatic circles today, the message is consistent. Europe is not negotiating from weakness. Europe is furious. Picture the manager of France's national team. Picture the head of Germany's football federation. Years of preparation. Fans who invested millions in non-refundable tickets and hotel reservations in cities like Dallas, Atlanta, and Kansas City. And now they're told key staff and supporters may be denied entry. The confusion is total, and the economic fallout isn't theoretical. It's unfolding right now. Start with hospitality. In all 11 American host cities, hotel cancellations are surging. Major chains are watching projected summer revenues evaporate almost overnight. Shift to aviation. International carriers are scrambling to reroute aircraft, cancel U.S. routes, and demand clarification from federal regulators. On Wall Street, airline stocks are bleeding. Then look at the sponsors. Global brands poured hundreds of millions into marketing campaigns centered on America hosting the world. Now they're facing the reality that their logos may be tied to a perception of instability and exclusion. Internal conversations about scaling back advertising are already underway. And don't overlook the local governments. Mayors in cities like Miami, Philadelphia, and Seattle invested heavily in stadium upgrades, transit improvements, and public safety preparations. They were promised an economic windfall. Now they're confronting the prospect of half-empty arenas and ballooning municipal debt. Why is the narrative slipping away from Trump so quickly? Because he appears to misunderstand what the World Cup represents. It isn't merely a sporting event. For billions across the globe, Football is woven into national identity and collective memory. When you disrupt the World Cup, you're not just upsetting politicians. You're angering entire populations. Trump escalated rhetorically, warning European leaders that objections could result in additional tariffs. The attempt was to pressure allies into compliance. But instead of pleading, European capitals went quiet. Calls to Washington slowed. Calls to Ottawa increased. This is where the contrast with Mark Carney becomes central. While the White House fired off statements and social media posts, Carney was assessing logistics. Canada is a co-host, originally scheduled for 13 matches in Toronto and Vancouver. The expectation was that Canada would play a supporting role in a larger North American partnership. Carney saw something different. He saw opportunity. He doesn't operate with bombast. He operates through systems, alliances, and precise timing. He understood Europe needed a solution. He understood FIFA needed stability to protect multi-billion-dollar broadcast agreements. So he acted. Within 48 hours, Carney held secure discussions with leaders in France, Germany, and across the European Union, as well as Mexico's president. He proposed an emergency pivot. Canada announced an expedited World Cup transit visa for affected nations. Borders would remain open. Processing would be efficient. Fan zones in Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver would expand. Training facilities would be made available to displaced teams. Canada positioned itself as the reliable alternative. Behind the scenes, discussions with FIFA intensified. There are now serious talks about reallocating knockout matches and potentially even semi-final fixtures from American cities to venues in Canada or Mexico. Carney's legal argument is straightforward. If the United States cannot guarantee free movement for athletes and fans, it risks breaching hosting obligations. That weakens Washington's leverage. This moment is about more than soccer. It's about stability and coalition building. Trump isolates to demonstrate resolve. Carney integrates to demonstrate competence. The message resonating in European capitals is blunt: the world can adapt without the United States. And the implications extend far beyond a tournament. Global markets are watching. NATO partners are watching. If Washington cannot reliably uphold commitments tied to a sporting event, allies begin to question broader assurances. Trust, once shaken, doesn't easily return. Europe increasingly views Carney as a predictable partner, financially literate, committed to a rules-based system. Trump is being perceived as volatile risk. Even if Canada isn't top of mind for you, the economic ripple effects are. If Europe shifts trust northward, foreign direct investment follows. Companies reconsider headquarters plans. Skilled workers reconsider visa applications. Innovation ecosystems adjust. Each time Washington closes a door, Ottawa opens one. Capital and talent flow accordingly. One symbolic episode illustrates the shift. Germany's national team was en route to Miami for a training camp when the travel ban was signed. Mid-flight over the Atlantic, notification arrived that certain staff members could face detention upon arrival due to dual citizenship tied to restricted nations. The plane diverted. It turned north. It landed in Toronto. Instead of confrontation, the team encountered streamlined processing and public support. The image traveled globally. Carney didn't shout. He demonstrated. He allowed events to contrast themselves. Now the question is, what happens next? There are three plausible paths. First, domestic pressure forces a reversal. Corporate leaders, state governors, and economic stakeholders push back. Faced with mounting backlash, Trump scales back the ban. Waivers are issued. The policy softens, but credibility remains damaged. Second, escalation. The ban remains. Rhetoric intensifies. FIFA convenes emergency sessions and reallocates matches away from the United States. Billions in revenue disappear. Political consequences follow. Third, attempted leverage. The administration offers to lift restrictions in exchange for trade or defense concessions. Europe refuses to negotiate under duress. Stalemate ensues. Markets wobble. Typically, crises are diffused by compromise, but Trump's political brand is built on doubling down. The dynamic pushes international partners towards steadier hands. This feels like a hinge moment, the era when the United States was viewed as indispensable is being tested. Trump pledged national resurgence. Instead, America appears increasingly isolated, financially exposed, and strategically bypassed. Meanwhile, Canada is filling space. Carney is demonstrating how a middle power equipped with planning and alliances can outmaneuver a superpower reliant on pressure tactics. The travel ban was meant to signal strength. It's being interpreted as instability. Long-term consequences may outlast the tournament itself. Younger generations in Europe are forming impressions now. They see one country perceived as closed and unpredictable. They see another perceived as open and reliable. Where will they study, invest, launch companies? Policies meant to fortify borders can inadvertently wall off opportunity, and ordinary citizens absorb the cost through reduced investment, lost revenue, and diminished global standing. Carney understands the long horizon. Each episode of unpredictability in Washington incrementally enhances Canada's relative appeal. European officials have publicly praised Ottawa's steadiness. International media increasingly frame the contrast in leadership styles as stark. The narrative has shifted. Trump is no longer cast as master dealmaker. He is viewed as a liability risk. Carney is portrayed as a stabilizing force. This crisis originated in Washington. The spark was intentional. The consequences were underestimated. Yet while flames spread across American economic interests, Canada has focused on containment, protecting tournament continuity, supply chains, and alliances. When the dust eventually settles, memories will persist. Observers will recall who escalated and who stabilized. The Trump era will be associated, in this chapter, with canceled flights and frayed partnerships. Carney's tenure may be remembered for coordination and strategic patience. The contrast is sharp. The stakes are enormous. We will continue monitoring flight routes, corporate decisions, and diplomatic signals because developments are accelerating. This isn't a routine policy disagreement. It's a structural stress test of global trust. So what do you think? Is Carney safeguarding the tournament or positioning himself to capitalize on overreach? Is Europe nearing a fundamental realignment away from Washington? Share your perspective below. And if you want ongoing analysis before the headlines fully catch up, make sure you're subscribed. The world is shifting in real time. Don't look away.